Just to say, like, health, parenting, diet, like, people are so rigid. You don't do it this way, you're not going to be enlightened.
Michelle Maros is the co-founder of Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life, and the creator of the popular podcast, Life Happens with Barb and Michelle. What are people supposed to do?
I would say a few things without, going immediately to your phone. Can you close your eyes and breathe for just a minute? That, I think, is where the magic is for sure. Playing not to lose versus playing to win. It's like, just feel the difference. My dad did pass away unexpectedly when I was 21. Just went to sleep and didn't wake up. In really understanding the truth that we all will pass, it is a part of life. First few years of my dad passing, I was kind of living in anger. It was wild. Everything is a practice. I do think there is a magic that happens when you are doing something physical. You can't die.
Okay, I have one last burning question for you. Hello and welcome back to Getting Open with me, Andrea Miller. This show is so packed with amazing, actionable advice. From how your own genuine moments of Zen, practice daily, can supercharge your life. And it doesn't have to be a day sitting on a mountain. Just even these small moments of Zen can supercharge your life, to how to genuinely quit caring what other people think, especially on social media, to how learning to say no and to own your no is such a powerful form of self-care, how befriending your inner critic can be such a powerful way to empower yourself and set you free emotionally, and so much more. So much more. All right, let me introduce my guest and let's get into it. Michelle Maros is the co-founder of Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life, and the creator of the popular podcast, Life Happens with Barb and Michelle. A sought-after keynote speaker armed with a journalism degree from Indiana University, Michelle is not just a voice of encouragement, but also a registered yoga teacher and an advocate for mindfulness who leads a mission to improve mental health and wellness through workshops, courses, and an online community. And exciting news, she has a new book called Dear Friend, coming out this fall. You can pre-order it. We're gonna actually kick off right there. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
I watched your fun video opening your book.
Oh my gosh!
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That was so awesome.
I have her here.
Okay, no, let's see it. No, just hold it up. Be loud and proud. Okay, look at that. It's beautiful.
Thank you,
friend.
Thank you. Long time coming, and when it finally arrives in its physical form, it's like a wild moment. But I'm excited. It comes out this fall, and since we have a podcast, I feel like I'm now on the other side of it, and it's so funny to be introduced instead of introducing. So
right.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on Getting Open. So tell me about Dear Friend. You're obviously extremely passionate. What's it about?
So Dear Friend is actually a daily inspirational message book. So that's not necessarily like a typical, not a book that you would read front to back in one sitting. It's, got daily entries, which really stemmed from growing up. My mom, or Peaceful Barb, if you follow her on social media, has been meditating my entire life, been in therapy, yoga, all of those things. I feel like before it even became as popular as it is today. But one of the practices that she instilled with me when I was young was we would read a passage from a book or a quote or an inspirational message before going off to school. And that was kind of a way to create peace before chaos, not knowing what the day had planned. And, obviously we don't do that now. I'm an adult, but with working together at Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life, we've been putting out inspirational messages. And I've written blogs for over a decade now. So I've always had the desire to write a book. Like you said, I have a journalism degree. And when thinking about the first book that I wanted to write, it was this concept of kind of putting together everything that I've learned and that I've talked about or that I've been through. And, and thinking about the times that we live in and just people are feeling lonely and disconnected, or like they're not heard or seen. I was just my real intention to give people something that they can go to on a daily basis or whenever they need it and feel like they have a friend in their corner.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, and to have that, yay, Barb, to have that kind of mom that has instilled that in you. I mean, that's what I'm doing with my own boys, in terms of being a mom that meditates and really takes mindfulness extremely seriously, as well as a lot of fun. I was telling you before we hopped on. I mean, I had so much fun with my kid in my truth gym.
But that's the amazing balance of it. I think so many people, when they think about meditation and mindfulness and yoga, it's all serious, but having fun is what it's all about.
Oh my God. To me, as a triple type A Aries, what I realize now, and, entrepreneur, working mom, all those things, what genuinely over-indexes both for enjoyment in life. And I think enjoyment in life and professional success, I actually think, sure, you can get hedonistic, or I'm not talking going hedonistic, but being joyful, and having fun, because I used to not be on my list of things to do. I personally believe, and I have a feeling you'll agree with me, being peaceful is way underrated. And then, and really taking time to relax. Cause I didn't really give myself time to relax in the past.
100%.
Because I was busy doing, proving, grinding, hustling. Right.
Yeah. And we didn't value relaxation time or downtime, or even, you have to earn the time to have fun. If you don't work hard enough, work hard, play hard. You can't play hard if you don't work hard. So I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. And it's, these are topics that I've personally just become so much more impassioned about talking about, like genuinely creating posts and so forth about, let's quit glorifying the grind. I mean, can we just stop it already? And in part, I feel like I've got some penance to pay or serve, because as a recovering workaholic, I used to glorify the grind. I used to glorify the hustle. Now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I want to tell myself to STFU. It's like, Andrea, just shut up. Nobody cares about how busy you are, first of all. And that is a trauma response, I think. What do you think?
I agree. I think depending on how you grew up and where you grew up, often being busy is, a safe haven of sorts. If you can keep yourself occupied, you won't get into trouble. And,
prove your worth, right?
And
that's how
exactly.
You prove your worth.
Proving, validating your existence to someone. And I even remember we talked a little bit before we hit record about both living in New York at a period of time. But when I lived in the city, it was like, how busy was your calendar? How, what's socially and work-wise? And I remember feeling one day like, oh, I don't have something going on this day or this week, or someone hasn't reached out, and feeling like, oh, is there something wrong with me? Because there is that kind of competitive comparison of, how fast are you going and where are you and who are you with? And that does get super exhausting, and it's not going to necessarily give you the success that you're looking to achieve with the peace that you talked about, that also goes along with it. So certainly having that conversation around it, I think, is super important, because it's still prevalent,
So prevalent.
People are grinding.
Yeah, no, totally. And I just, in a way, putting a lot of effort forward in a time where it feels like, and just, I don't know, I want to say like an age of AI and there's so much to consume, passively consume, right? So there's I want to say, like, don't make no mistake, putting forth serious intention to me is extremely valuable. It's just how it's framed, and does it feel like punishment? Does it feel like penance? And to your point, do you have to earn your play? I mean, what feels like a flex to me now is when you have real free time, when you own your calendar in a way that gives you flexibility versus feeling like you just can't squeeze anything else in. Like, that's a flex. I'm not there
Absolutely.
yet. Can you help me get there, Michelle?
I can try. I feel like I've kind of started to get there, but it's also, you can get to a place where maybe you have more ownership of your calendar or when you say yes or no. But then I don't know if you relate to this, if you have any like people pleasing tendencies, but that comes up a lot for me. So people will be like, oh, but can't you squeeze this in? Or can't you come a day early for this? Or can you? And that's where I struggle, because I know that, oh, well, if I want to feel, balanced or well rested or like my best self, I need this downtime or alone time. But then when people push back and ask, that's where I struggle, where I'm like, oh, but I don't want to disappoint that person, or I don't want to let that person down. So for me, it's the boundaries, but it's also working on the people pleasing, to be like, I can do this, but I can't do this. What can we work in the middle?
Well, I love that. And what I've really tried to do more intentionally is own my yeses and own my nos. So it comes from a place of integrity, and I can feel good about it. Right. And that, so yes, I've definitely had those people pleasing tendencies. And it's like, for me to say, if I'm going to say yes, I want to own that yes and feel good about it, rather than feel like I'm kind of compelled, because then that doesn't feel good.
No, and then people can sense it too if you're kind of begrudgingly doing something, or, I recently I had an experience where I was talking to a friend about, meeting up this past summer, and they wanted me to come a day early, and it really didn't work for me. And I was like, well, I'll see what I can do. And I was kind of being flaky about it because I didn't want to say no. And I was like, just tell them you can't make it work, instead of prolonging this weird conversation of, did it work? Does it not? And I'm like, Michelle, like, this is stuff you talk about. Like, just tell them this is what can work for you. And it was like that limbo wishy-washiness that I was like, this is so irritating for me. And it's probably really irritating for them too. Like, just tell them what works.
I love it.
But it comes up,
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you, what is the advice that you give that you have a hard time taking? So it sounds like you gave me one just now.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when I feel like it's something someone else really wants. And maybe theoretically I could make it work. Like in this situation, I could move some things around and have made it work to go a day early. But like we were talking about it, it kind of would eat into some things in my schedule. I'd have to move some stuff around at home. I'd have to pay to change my flight, like stuff that is doable, but do I really want to do it? And is it something that's really going to work for me? And it's not easy to tell people no to.
No, it's not. But I think that becomes a massive flex, like a massive empowerment, when you can really own it without feeling badly. That becomes a superpower. And listening to you speak, it reminds me of a meme I saw recently, and it's how I think about when I go shopping. It's either a heck yes or it's a no. Right. And that, you know what I mean? And so, and I just feel like, hey, everybody listening and watching, heck yes. Give yourself that permission. You know what I mean? Like, be able to say heck yes. And, listen, every now and then, again, triple type A areas, what I have learned, one of the wisest things that I have been able to master is, when it comes to certain decisions, to not give a quick response, but to sleep on it, and to allow, especially when it's a decision of consequence, and to take in counsel from others, especially people whose opinions typically vary from mine. Like, that has become such a great opportunity to see my blind spots, right? I mean, so when we're talking about decision making and saying yes and saying no and responding to people, but just, this idea of getting over people pleasing with a lot of integrity, and not feeling like you're going to let somebody else down. So you're going to say maybe. My great uncle Joe would always say, a fast no is way better than a slow maybe.
I agree 100%. It prolongs like a weird suffering when you're just, especially if you know what you want, like just rip the Band-Aid, so to speak, and own it, and just, this is who I am. And the people that are in your life that know that you care about them, they know you're not trying to say no to be malicious. It's just, that's how life is.
Well, and even like you say, making sure you have your own downtime. It's almost like do you prefer quality over quantity? And for me, the older I get, I way prefer quality time. So when I get my time in the morning, when I get to swim, when I get to do those things, even if it means less time working, less time with the people that I love, that time is so much more impactful because I've recharged. And that is something that I've only really started to take seriously relatively recently in my life.
Absolutely. I think having even just a few moments here and there to connect with yourself or be with yourself or whatever works for you. You know, some people, when you talk about meditation, they're like, sitting with myself with my eyes closed feels impossible and not restorative. And, you know, it's a practice. And I think that you get more comfortable with it as you do it. But whatever those things are that make you feel recharged, if you can, you know, sit in your car before going into work or, you know, go to the bathroom and just take some deep breaths on a break or something like that matters too. But the alone time is important.
Micro recharging. Okay, but let's rewind for a moment to, you just touched on something that I'm, as a very passionate meditator and breathwork person, I feel like our industry has done such a terrible job in helping people understand what it feels like to meditate and what they should expect, right? So many people, like you were saying, they say, I can't sit there with my eyes closed for that long and clear my mind. And there's so much misinformation in that as what you're supposed to do. What are people supposed to do and experience? And by the way, I realize there are a lot of different kinds of meditations, but for people who say, I can't sit there with my eyes closed and clear my mind for 20 minutes, what do you say to them?
I would say a few things. Firstly, it's been our theory with Peace of Mind, Peace of Life and the work I do with my mom to make meditation and mindfulness accessible and to kind of break down some of the rules and the rigidity around it. So firstly, if you say to me, I can't spend 20 minutes meditating, I would say, well, can you spend 1 minute? You know, can you start by just starting small when you wake up without, you know, going immediately to your phone? Can you close your eyes and breathe for just a minute and see how that feels? So taking away some of the rules around it, like time or where you are, like, again, being in your car, if you're someone who has to drive to work and has a pretty strict schedule, can you take a couple minutes in your car before going into work? And it's like figuring out those little places, I think, that can get you into the practice and starting to see the benefits of like, oh, I feel so much better when I do this before going into a meeting, or, you know, if you're a student before taking a test, or anyone, if there's a high pressure moment, you can start to see, oh, if I take a couple deep breaths or close my eyes or just sit with myself, I feel better or I perform better. And then I think you can definitely build from there to where, oh, that wasn't so bad. That 1 minute was no big deal. I could do a couple more minutes and just like play with it and make it your own and make it something that you like to do and that you know, we all brush our teeth probably. Or, you know, do things. We do,
you and me.
Or, you know, have a skincare routine or, you know, do things before when you wake up or when you go to sleep. Like, can you start to think of it like, yeah, I wouldn't not go out without brushing my teeth. Maybe I won't go out without a couple of minutes of closing your eyes. But then the other thing too is to kind of release the idea that you're going to stop your mind from thinking, and that, you know, if you're an overthinker or if you have a lot of anxiety, like I can think of so many people in our sphere that have said, oh, my brain is just on overdrive. I think too much. There's no way I could meditate. And, you know, it's that mindset that meditation is clearing the mind, and it's not, you know, it's just sitting with yourself and observing the thoughts. And so also really breaking down that misconception that in order to meditate, you have to stop your thoughts. And it's, you know, being with yourself, breathing and being present. And it doesn't have to be so complicated if the complication is what's keeping you from doing it.
Yeah, I think that's what ends up happening to people. And it used to happen with me too. I tried TM, Transcendental Meditation, for a while, you know, did the class, had the what
mantra.
Do you call it? The mantra. I can't tell anybody what it is. Don't ask me.
It's very secretive.
I know, very secretive. And yeah, I didn't like it. And what I would do as a working mom and somebody with a very full day, I would, you know, finally get in bed at, you know, 11 or midnight or whatever time it was. And then I'd be like, oh my God, now I've got to do this, like one more freaking thing to do. And then Like I felt like it was having to use this willpower. And then half the time I'd fall asleep and I'd be annoyed with myself and I'd feel myself kind of getting anxious about like, I'm doing this wrong. And now so I ended up doing last summer, I did a week-long meditation retreat with Joe Dispenza. And so I am such a proponent of guided meditations and using healing frequencies in music. And and by the way, two of my closest friends, Michael and Jessica, I love you guys. They are like the gurus of TM. And then, I mean, honestly, just having come from a Beach Boys concert, Mike Love, the lead singer of the Beach Boys, he credits TM for his legendary success. I mean, he is one of rock and roll's greatest legends of all time. And he's been doing TM twice a day, every day for 60 years. Right. So it works. I am not dunking on TM. It just doesn't work for me.
Right. And I think that's what it is. It's you find what works for you and it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so when I just think about this idea of there are some forms of meditation where, you really are having to, I feel like, work a little harder versus it feeling a little easier. And I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but you said something so important that I just wanted to come back to. I didn't like it before. I felt like it was a more homework for me at the end of my day, or I didn't want to start with it. And now, honestly, I love it. It feels so good to do my meditations and do my breath work. And that, and I feel like, that becomes very self-reinforcing, right? It's like something I look forward to. And it took a little while to get there.
Yeah. I also like to think of it like taking your brain to the gym. When you are first going to the gym, if you've not gone to the gym or if you've not gone to a workout class before, it's like, it's hard and you don't know what you're doing and you feel like you suck and you're not as strong as everybody else or whatever. But, you do another rep or you go another time and it gets easier. And it's like, we're never taught to sit with ourselves or to, focus on our breath. Like we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, it's always like go, 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 go. So this concept of like stopping and not doing anything is totally against our nature as humans. And so it's not easy at first. It's really uncomfortable. And you're just like, how long has it been? Oh, it's only been 1 minute. What do you mean? Right. And it's just like, you got to build it up.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of the precept of go slow to go fast. Right. And that's just when I think about making that investment in myself where I've calmed my nervous system. I have so much more clarity. I trust my judgment. So I'm not overthinking. I'm not second guessing. Right. But it to your point about using the gym analogy, it's been about making this investment in my, I even think of less even mental health, but like emotional well-being. So I'm not as reactive. Like it pays off in so many ways that it's like, I can't even begin to express just what a big proponent I am. All right, we could talk about that for days, but I want to come back to, dear friend, what is one practice you wish every woman, or dudes too, I guess it's for men and women, right? Okay, let me rephrase that.
Whoever's open to it.
What is one practice that everybody listening and watching our podcast would do today?
Well, we just chatted about meditation a lot. And I do think
the second thing.
I think it's important. I do talk about journaling in the book as a practice. I think journaling is a great addition to meditation to kind of I call it like giving your thoughts a home. So if you think about, if you have a to-do list and you don't write it down and your brain is like, don't forget to go pick up the laundry or the dry cleaning and I got to go do this, or don't forget to go to the grocery store, and you don't write it down. It's like, it's just taking space in your brain. And I think so often our thoughts are like that too, where, oh, I'm not good enough. I didn't meditate today. I didn't, all of these things. And I love using journaling as a practice to just dump all those thoughts onto the page and create space for your creativity or your ideas or positive thoughts, your goals, and just things that you want to focus on rather than all of the other mess that's often in there.
Right. So journaling is one of your key recommendations. And do you typically use a journal prompt, or do you really reflect on what is happening for you at the moment?
I've done both. It just depends. Sometimes in the morning I'll just open my journal and write whatever comes to mind. I absolutely love, I don't know if you've read it, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, who does morning pages. That was like a huge game changer for me.
And just talk about what morning pages are for people that aren't familiar.
So Morning Pages by Julia Cameron wrote The Artist's Way, and she talks about morning pages in her book, where it's just, she recommends even before meditation or anything else, you wake up, you open up your journal, and you just free write for 2 full pages about whatever comes to your mind. And it's such an interesting concept, because I've had times where I'll wake up and I'm like, I don't know what to write, or I don't know what to say. And she says, just write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to say. Nothing's coming up. And it really is a unique practice, I think, of connecting you with yourself and having no judgment of what comes up. And then I think once you finish, and I like in that regard where she says, do the 2 pages, it's like, there are times where I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing's coming and I want to stop. And I'm like, no, just keep writing. And, you finish, and then it's like you've decompressed your brain, or defragmented, like we used to do with computers.
Defrag. Yeah. The defrag. Okay. Kids are like, what is defragging?
I know no that made me sound,
that's so funny. But I'm with you. I'm tracking.
I love it. And yeah, she credits that to a lot of her creativity. She talks a lot about like creatives and artists and things like that as, a tool that they use to do their art or do their work or anything.
Have you had breakthroughs doing morning pages?
Yeah, for sure. I find that when I am committed to my quiet time in meditation and also journaling, I get a lot of ideas for blogs or for books or for social media content or podcasts. It really is, for me, where a lot of those ideas come through. But also, I don't think it's the only way. I talk to people who are runners and they go for runs, and that's where they get their clarity. Or people who love to cook, when they're very present to that, they get their inspiration. And so I think it can look different for all of us. But certainly for me, being in that practice, I've gained a lot.
What I would probably, the dots that I want to connect right now real quick, and I also swim. And so I have found, I used to listen to music while swimming, and now I don't. And I have found that just literally being in the flow. So whether running, swimming, or even, writing with your hand, and then, no, I'm not going to dunk on anybody who's doing morning pages typing, but it feels like, yeah, it's embodied, right? Or cooking. It's like you're physically in something versus just here in your head, right? And, this idea that 95% of what's driving us is our unconscious mind. I mean, it's that 95% that's running the show. I think it's 100%. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
100% agree with you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I know. I'm tracking. Yeah, so this idea that when you're doing morning pages, even if you start off by saying, I don't know what to write, because it's like, don't think. You know what I mean? And like, don't think, just let your body, your hand connect to the page. So I've done a lot of that. And who's the lady that wrote Writing Down the Bones? Do you know who I'm talking about? I can't remember, but that's a great book for creativity. And then Anne Lamott, there are probably, and I'm sure there are other teachers in this, sort of process in the space that I'm forgetting, but I feel like it all comes back to the same thing of you tap into creativity when you get into flow. And how do you get into flow? It's not by being cerebral. It's bypassing what's cerebral. And, because what is going to control things is our ego. So our ego wants to get the first fucking draft right. Oops, sorry, I said fucking.
I love it. I'm here for it.
And no, it's true. And if we can bypass, and when we bypass the ego, it feels like that's where magic happens as creative people.
Yeah, I do think there is a magic that happens when you are doing something physical and connecting with your body, as well as being in that flow, like you were saying, swimming and not having the music and just being with yourself. When I first started yoga, that was what it felt like for me, where, this was a little back in the day. So people didn't have their phones so often, but like I really felt like when I first started yoga, my phone was somewhere else. I could escape the outside world and just be with myself in these poses and doing this practice and being with myself and connecting with myself in a way that I had never experienced before. And that was life-changing as well. And so, sometimes when I'm doing journaling, I'm like, my hand really hurts. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, or I'm like, ew, my handwriting is disgusting. Or why, this should be nicer or prettier, whatever. But there is a power in doing that physical aspect and connecting with yourself and your body and your mind that I think is where the magic is, for sure.
Well, I totally agree. And it feels like and actually it may sound like a unusual segue, but I feel like when you talk about connecting with your mind and body, I would love for you to talk about being an unhappy member of the Dead Dads Club. You've talked really openly in a way that's so moving.
Thank you.
About somebody that lost her dad at a really young age. And I would love to hear how that's impacted you.
Yeah. It's actually so kind of not funny, but tomorrow, when we're recording this, tomorrow is the anniversary of my dad passing. So it's the perfect time to talk about it. But yeah, I'm in the Dead Dads Club, and I know I'm smiling as I'm saying that, but I do, so tomorrow will be 18 years since my dad passed. So I've got some years under my belt. So I've definitely worked on the relationship that I have with grief. But my dad did pass away unexpectedly when I was 21, just went to sleep and didn't wake up.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was wild.
I didn't realize that. Oh
yeah.
That's terrible.
It was rough.
I mean, it's terrible in any case, but just something that would just shock you like that is just really, really terrible.
Yeah, I was getting ready to go back to my senior year of college. And yeah, totally flipped everything upside down for, a lot of reasons, obviously, but also, my dad didn't have a will and just was not very organized. So it was just a very messy situation combined with, feeling the feelings and the emotions of grief. So yeah, I think about that time that it's like there was everything before and then there's the after. And so I've had many years to process my grief and be with my grief and think about my grief. And, I think after all of these years, it's hard to say that I'm grateful for it because that sounds kind of messed up, but the feelings that I feel about it now, and even after all of these years, it is still that like tether to the person. Like that person existed because I know that person existed because I still have these feelings. Or if a Alanis Morissette song comes on in the car, I'm like, I'm taken back immediately to driving with my dad when I was 10 years old and Jagged Little Pill came out. And, it's painful, but I also embrace it now. And I think transforming the relationship you have with grief and just starting to embrace it in whatever way that works for you can really help you move through the feelings and the difficulty of it. But I will say, like, every day is different. And even after all of these years, I was on a plane a couple days ago and I was thinking about, oh, wow, like August 8th is coming up. And oh, that's a long time. And we're kind of almost getting to that place. So I was 21 and it's been 18 years. So I'm like, what's that going to be like when he's been dead longer than he was alive for my lifetime? Like, what? That's a weird thing. And, you just get in your head about just all of these different aspects of grief. But it's taught me so much about myself and my emotions. And, ultimately I have a lot of gratitude for the relationship that I had with my dad, and that I feel so strongly, even after all of these years, to have these emotions.
Do you feel, I mean, there's 7, I can't remember, 7, maybe an 8th stage of grief. I forget who the thought leader is that added an 8th stage.
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I know that.
And I'm
Elizabeth
totally.
Ross was the original one.
Yeah, she was the originator of this. And then, oh God, who was I? He lost his son prematurely. And I think he talks about like the purpose of it. But anyway, I'm getting off my question. So anger is one of the stages of grief. Do you feel anger now?
I felt anger for a long time. I think actually within the first few years of my dad passing, I was kind of living in anger for, the disorganized, like there was a lot of chaos and a lot of messiness because of how my dad lived his life. And so I was angry for a while. I was like, what the hell? Like, you couldn't have, been more of an adult or not made better choices or, leaving. Cause I also was my dad's only child, but also close next of kin. So a lot of the legal stuff and estate stuff fell on me. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it just, I was 21. So it was a real wake up call of like just responsibility and all of that. But I would say I was angry definitely for the first few years. And it wasn't until things kind of started to settle down with that stuff, but also settle down in my life where I'm like, wait, no, like my dad isn't coming back. And I am actually sad. Like I can be angry at him, but also miss him a lot. And those two things don't have to, they can be together. And I think I've realized that a lot of these emotions can exist at the same time. And so I'll definitely have moments where I'm angry, but then I know that I'm going to have a moment where I'm in gratitude, or I'll be laughing, or just, contentment of having a memory of something really seemingly silly, like a song or, sports. I went to a lot of games with him. And so I think it's just kind of letting whatever emotions come up and not having judgment for them. I think people often feel a lot of judgment about anger with grief. Like, oh, I shouldn't be angry, or I shouldn't be mad at them. They're no longer here. I have to just let it all go. And I just think letting yourself feel whatever feelings and not having any sort of judgment about them is important, especially if it's like early on as well. Because you never know how you're going to respond to difficult situations like that. I had no idea. And I remember when it happened, I was in college and my roommate, I was also a mess. And, I was a senior in college at a party school of sorts. And so, we would go out to the bars and I would have been drinking, and then, a song would come on and I would just be hysterically crying at the bars. And I'm like, oh, I'm such a mess. I'm so sorry. And my roommate at the time was like, look, you get a year to just take a year. You don't have to feel guilty about any of this. Like, just let yourself be. And I felt so let off the hook in that moment that like, I didn't have to just snap back and be a normal person again. Like nothing had ever happened 1 month later, 2 weeks later, 6 months later. And her letting me off the hook in that way was really great. But then when the year was up, I'm like, wait, she said I get a year, but I still feel a little messy and definitely not over it. And I realized that, there's no timeline to it, and you can just take the time that you need and let yourself feel and grieve and process. And here we are 18 years later, and things come up and I just sit with it, and it is what it is.
Honestly, listening to you, it's like, I mean, thinking about how you're saying, and I'm not judging my emotions, and I'm allowing the messiness. I mean, it's like grief in a big way is a metaphor for life, right? Because we all have disappointments. We're all contending with things. And yeah, I mean, it's a powerful reminder. And honestly, one of my very closest friends, I was very close friends with her mom. She just died this morning.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so,
I'm so sorry.
No. Oh, well, she was 95 and had a beautiful life. And we had such a great saying goodbye just yesterday.
Oh,
But it is, I mean, it's such a ever-present reminder that, your dad died without any expectation. Our friend, dear Ruth, we love you, darling, was in hospice, and we were able to say proper goodbyes. And then honestly, I'm thinking about my brother-in-law died suddenly from a heart attack and left behind a 20-year-old daughter and my nephew she was, I guess, 19 and 16, so close to your ages. And then of course my sister, a lot like your mom, losing a husband unexpectedly. And it's a profound reminder of, it's going to be cliche, but how precious life is, right?
it's true. You just don't know, I think, is really what it's like. We never know when our time will be. And as cliche as it sounds, it's like, how can you just embrace your life for what it is in the moment, knowing that, you don't know. And of course you're going to have disappointments and frustrations and anger about your own life. But ultimately we are here for a short amount of time,
a finite amount of time. So would you say, do you have an adage that you live by, or, when you think about how you in particular, as a young person who is obviously close to your dad, recognizing more than most of us, we all know that we're theoretically a breath away from death every moment of our lives. That's just a fact. But you know that more intimately because that's what you've experienced. Is there a, adage you live by, or any sort of mantra that sort of keeps you present or keeps you kind of, connected to that deep wisdom?
That's a great question, because for many years I've kind of been, so my dad has passed, but also a lot of other, like my grandparents died young. So a lot of my family has passed away at a young age. And I joke with my mom now that I'm like, we're all each other has, but it's kind of true. We have some other distant family here and there, but so because of that, for a long time, I was just like, okay, when's the next one coming? Like, who's next? I think there was a time where I was going to a funeral at least one a year or something. Like, it just felt like a lot. And so I had gotten into this mode of like, yeah, everyone's going. It's just, and I've been in a season now lately where that has not been the case. And I've noticed myself being like, wow, I haven't gone to a funeral in a while. Like, who's coming? Who's next? And so there's a lot of like anticipatory grief that I've been processing, especially now being so close to my mom and, her being the only one left. It's like, oh God, you can't die. And so for me, I've been really working on with myself with being present with the people that are still alive, and, not being afraid of death in the way that they're going to leave or that I'm not going to have them anymore. But just, I find myself really finding comfort in really understanding the truth that we all will pass, and that it is a part of life. And I can't just think that that's not going to happen. But being present with people and really connecting with them. And if I'm with my mom, being with her, or if I'm with a friend, being with them, and just, I know it's not, people often sometimes have regrets when people pass. Oh, I wish I had done this. And you can never predict how you're going to feel or what you wish you had done. But I do feel like there is a sense of peace. Like, if you're with your people and you appreciate them and you're present with them, when a time comes, maybe there will be a sense of like, it's okay. I don't know, because, it's been a little while, but it has forced me to be more present and more maybe like realistic about life and the dynamics of it and the impermanence of it, but not in a morbid way. And it just like, it's what's true. And
it feels like
made me feel more grounded.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the great gift of Buddhism is detachment, right? And recognizing we have so much less control than we give ourselves credit for, and being detached to genuinely detached from outcomes. Like you set an intention, this idea of intention, versus attachment. To me, you set the intention and then you detach from the outcome, and then you become a really good Buddhist.
Yeah. I think detachment is huge, especially when it comes to loved one. I mean, not to sound cold or, disconnected, but
yeah.
I feel like it just helps me to love my people in a more aligned way, because I'm not trying to make myself feel better about thinking that they're never going to leave. But I'm just like, no, if I'm with you, I want to be with you, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And
that's back to the beginning of our conversation, just this whole business of how being genuinely present. I know I said peace is so underrated, and the more grounded and peaceful and present I become, it massively has changed. Even like what I was telling you about how how I just goof off so much with my boys. Like, we are so deeply present with each other, and it is so freaking fun. Right?
I love
it's
that.
just we're goofballs.
And it's probably not, you're not like, oh, let's record this of us being funny so then we can post it on social media. Like, you're with each other. And I think so much of life has been intercepted by phones.
Oh yeah, it's not performative. It
exactly.
is just completely real and completely something we'll probably never even think about again, except for it's like, oh, remember that time, Mom, when I chipped your tooth? I'm like, oh yeah, and I thought I was going to lose all of them. Thank God it was only chipped. I was going to need dentures prematurely.
I love it. And it was it's this momentary joy, but it's not performative.
But that whole business of being, choosing to be peaceful. And again, for me, back to being an unpaid spokesperson for the meditation industry, thank you. That I just feel like you give when you're willing to go into that quiet, peaceful place inside of yourself and invest in that, the payoff is genuinely gigantic. Okay, you are such a great giver of advice, Michelle. We're going to pivot.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I mean,
you want me to give advice? Just kidding.
Yeah, give advice.
You start asking the questions. So I'm just kidding. Listen, you can say pass.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. It's all on the table. We're present, and we're fun, and we're just getting into it. I just pulled a few of the things from your Instagram that resonate with me. So part of it is I need the advice, and everybody else listening and watching needs the advice. Not everybody, but a lot of you guys do. Come on, let's keep it real. So how do you quit caring? And because we have about 10, 12 minutes. So I'm going to say in 1 minute or less, do your best. And, no judgment here. How do you quit caring what other people think?
Just starting off with a very easy softball question.
I just wanted to give you a really, really easy one, Michelle. Just boom.
Yeah. Okay. Something I work on a daily basis. I am not by any means there yet, but I know that it is a worthwhile journey to getting to a place where you are not so bogged down by it. Don Miguel Ruiz's The 4 Agreements, when he talks about not taking things personally, changed my life about how I perceive this. So I would say
not taking things personally.
Yes. He says nothing anyone ever says or does is because of you. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And I felt like I really had to sit with that. And I often play devil's advocate with myself. I'm like, well, what about this? Is that not because of me? And he does a really great job of breaking that down. So if that's something that piques anyone's interest, I would definitely go check that book out. But I think what's helped me the most in this arena of my life is that no one knows what it's like to fully be me or to be you. No one knows what it's like to live my lived experiences or my perspective. And we all have such unique perspectives on life. That is a fact. You and I could be standing at the same place, looking at the same thing and have different thoughts about it. And so it just makes sense that we're not going to view things in the same light and in the same vein. And so it's not personal, that if I say something or do something and someone has a problem with it or a different perspective, that it's just what's going to happen in life. And
let me ask you this.
Personally is adding to my suffering.
Well, totally. And so let me ask you this. Was there a time, whether it was in your podcast or something you posted on social media, that was really hurtful to you, that you just then flipped it around and got over it?
Flipped it around?
Genuinely got over it. Keep it real, girl.
Okay.
And if not, then that's your homework.
No. I talked about it earlier in the episode. People pleasing is something that I've worked through, and I have not always taken conflict well. Again, still something that I work on. And people on social media can be tough. And so there have been times where I've posted things about political things that I believe in, or even just human rights things that I believe in. And I will get messages that are shocking in response to that. And what would get me, down about it is, well, that I would get, kind of crazy messages, but also I'm like, what do you mean? I thought what I was saying makes perfect sense. Like, how could you twist this into something that, whatever? And then people would sometimes say like, oh, you're clearly not who I thought you were. You're, a fraud, or you're this or you're that. And just projecting those things. And there would be a long period of time where I would let that sink into me and be like, oh my God, are they right? What is wrong with me? Whatever. So all of those thoughts. Again, I'm still working on it, but I will post things from time to time and get messages from people. And I'm like, ugh, but I've learned to not respond. If I can really sense that this is someone that's just trying to get at me. If someone wants to have a conversation, I will, but I'm like, having discernment. Do I need to respond here? No. And sometimes I used to respond, and then these people would just be committed to misunderstanding you and fueling it and riling you up. So I've found that discernment is key in these instances. Like, does it really matter what this person thinks of me? Is this going to impact my day-to-day life?
I'd love to jump in there. So my boys are 12 and 15, and the advice that I give them, as teenagers, they're getting, it's like, well, and we all, whether they're a teenager or older, we're all getting feedback, right? From our peer group and so forth. And what I say to my kids, here's the good news. Either what somebody is telling you is not true, and then you could say, okay, well, thanks, but that's not true. Or it is true. And it's a blind spot. And you go, isn't that interesting? Dang, and maybe it's not a nice way that they told you, but it's an opportunity to get to know yourself a little bit better, to see that blind spot. And like one of my B school professors would always say, feedback is a gift. And I try to take that advice. My presence on social media is modest, but I posted a Matt Rife video that got nearly 2 million views, and I love Matt Rife. And oh my God. And it was a video that was really praising him. And I can't tell you some of the petty responses. I'm like, people, you're missing the point. Why are you giving me that petty response? And at first I wanted to respond like, why are you so petty? And then I'm like, well, why would I even respond to pettiness? Like, that makes no sense. But then others would troll me. And a couple people, I literally said, like, why does my opinion on something? Because I'm not over here saying, anything negative against like your president or anything, that it like might feel more personal. I'll say I am sincerely curious, and then they never respond. And I'm like, okay, haters, I'm not going to hate you back, because like that just gives away my power. I'm not giving away my power, not to the haters.
No, and I do think a lot of people that engage in that, they are looking for a way to be seen or heard in some sort of weird way,
totally.
And it's, I don't know what the reasoning is behind that, but you get the ones, oh, I'm unfollowing you, unfollow. You're not who I thought you were, unfollow. I'm like, okay, I don't need to know. You can just do it.
Yeah, but that says something too, right? That like need for attention, need for validation. I think when you look at these things, for me, with a compassionate heart, and sometimes honestly, even my own behavior, when I want to hit back, and every now and then I do, because I'm human too, and I look at that, sort of that's my ego. And then sort of the deeper, wiser self in me looks at that with compassion. And it's like, oh yeah, you're hurt. Oh yeah, you're hurt. That's what's going on here. Let's give little Andrea a little love, little compassion. And back to your point, like being willing to feel those feelings of hurt and disappointment. And you're right about anger. There's so much judgment about anger. And I say, like, quit judging the anger, because the more you judge it, the more it just like shoves it underground. I mean, anger, all these emotions, all of our emotions are signals from within us. And if they become pathological and destructive, okay, well, that's not good. But within, just a reasonable, healthy expression of them, it's like, well, good. Now they're out. Okay, I got 2 or 3 more questions for you. That was a great response, by the way.
Thank you. Everything is a practice.
Yeah, no, it's true.
We're not born experts at these things, and we do our best.
Well, and that's the whole point. Yeah, totally. Okay, you and your mom talk about something that is so near and dear to my heart: hard conversations.
Yes.
Okay, so you talk about how hard conversations can heal relationships. What's your advice? How and why is this so important? And what do people do about it?
Yeah, I think having hard conversations, especially when it's about the truth of a situation or a relationship, is not easy. That's why they're hard, but they're important, and they create space for healing and understanding, especially since I've been working with my mom and spending so much time with her, and we are together a lot. When we first started working together, a Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life, she would text me at midnight on a Saturday night about a typo I had in the newsletter that was going out on
Mom.
Monday.
Come on, do better. Yeah. I used to do that too. I don't anymore.
Yeah. And, maybe I let it go once or twice, and I'm like, and then it kept happening. I'm like, you can't keep doing this. Like, and so that was, one of the first times.
It felt aggressive to you. And she's probably just thinking, I happen to see it now because I can defend that.
100%.
Like, I just happen to see it now. I'm thinking about it. It's not meant to be aggressive. Your feeling is it's aggressive and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And,
both of you are right in a way.
Of course. And, because she's my mom, there's that she has access to me 24/7. Whereas I would think a colleague wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to text Michelle at midnight on a Saturday, like I'll wait till Monday morning. So that was really one of the first times we had to have a conversation about boundaries. I'm like, look, this is never going to work if this keeps happening, because I'm going to get frustrated and resent you, and it's going to impact our personal relationship and our professional relationship. Like, unless it's something that has to be addressed, like take a note and say, let's talk about this, in business hours. But of course, having our own company and nonprofit and podcast, like, what are business hours? So it's just,
how did she respond when you called her out?
She understood. I think because I also said it, I might have been exasperated with her the first time I said it, but I think just having the conversation, saying like, please, can we do this differently? And I will say, that was kind of the start of working together, and we've had a lot of practice now to where we're more seasoned. And this happened this summer where I was taking some time away, and my mom was like, oh, I might come and spend a week with you when you're out of town. And in theory, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And then I realized, I'm like, no, I really need this. Again, going back to the start of the conversation, I need this kind of time apart. We're together a lot, and I need my alone time, or just to do whatever I want. And I said to her, I'm like, I really don't mean this to hurt your feelings, and this has nothing to do with you. This is not personal to you, but I think it would be better for me if you didn't come spend that week with me when I'm away. I just really need this time for myself. And I didn't say it in like a accusatory way or like judgmental way. And, at first she was like, oh, I could tell she kind of was a little bit hurt. Like, oh, I was excited to come spend time with you. And then she was like processing it a little. I totally understand. You're right. Like, this is your time. We are together all the time. It makes total sense why you would need this. Of course.
No, good for her. Good job, Barb.
But we're not perfect. But I think going back to the not taking things personally, if you're with having a conversation with someone that I think the grounds have already been set that you care about each other and you just want to talk about what is or isn't working for you in a kind, compassionate way, maybe you need to set a boundary, maybe you need to say no to something. It creates space for conversation and understanding to where she understood where I was coming from in that instance. And she's like, no, that makes perfect sense. Like it's all good and we're good. And I felt so much better speaking on it because it wasn't festering within me. She understands where I'm coming from. And I didn't just push it under and say, yeah, just come. It'll be fine. Because if that had happened, we'd probably be here and I'd be so freaking annoyed with her and like agitated. So I just think it's the truth.
Totally. And so my couple more, and then we'll wrap up. But why is saying no truly an act of self-advocacy rather than selfishness?
I think saying no is just your ability to act on your wants and needs and what works for you moment to moment. And if, you're being called to say no to something, it's likely for a reason. If like you're getting an intuitive hit or a gut instinct, like, no, that's not for you. It's important to listen to it and think about all of the times you've said yes to things that you wanted to say no to, and you've done it begrudgingly, and you sit there and you're like, oh, why did I say yes to this? I wish I hadn't done this. And just, is that a worthy use of your time ultimately? And so just having the discernment of where do I want to be and where I don't want to be. And it's okay to say no.
Well, I think I agree. And I just think this idea of selfishness, I mean, there is judgment in that phrasing. I almost want to say, like, let's start a movement to call it self-advocacy or some other phrase.
Self-advocacy is great.
Yeah. And this idea of saying, because if I can't own my no, then I'm putting you above me, which also isn't good. Right? Because to your point, because then you get resentful and then it's like, it's really low vibe and that doesn't serve anybody. This idea of being able to own your yes, to me, to own your yes and own your no, and not then carry the judgment of, geez, I'm so selfish. Now, listen, if you're always making it about me, well, then that's going to impact your relationships and it's not going to feel good. But as I think for most of us who really try to accommodate other people in our lives, and at times when it's, hey, I just can't do that, like that feels like a gift of self-love rather than a label of selfishness. That's how I feel.
I agree. And the selfish, description of this whole conversation, I do think needs to be reframed.
Yeah, we need to rebrand selfishness. Let's do
because
it.
Michelle, it's not. And I think a lot of us, especially women, we talked about how women we've made it, women growing up, it's like even being angry was so unbecoming of a woman. And so it's like anger and selfishness, like that was the worst thing you could be. And I think reframing how we look at that and just that, there is the saying you can't pour from an empty cup. And by constantly saying yes and burning yourself out, it's ultimately not going to help you be like the loving person in your family or your career or your caretaker. Like you're going to burn out eventually. And so I just think it really is about, self-care is talked about so much and thrown around, but how to care for you best. Like, what you need. And sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to get a pedicure and Netflix binge for self-care. And like, yeah, that can be self-care, but like, what actually restores you? Like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, for me, it's, that quality alone time or quiet time. Like that's really where I'm just like, okay, I'm back. So what is it for you? And carve out a few minutes here and there for it. Again, it doesn't have to be like, I'm going off the grid for 6 months because I can't deal with you people anymore, which I don't know if someone needed that, fine.
That's kind of good.
Yeah.
No, but I love that. This idea of saying no as a gesture for self-care, that's a power move. That feels like a power move to own it and not regret it. I mean, because I feel like it's easy to say no and then really feel bad. Like,
yes,
how to really self-sabotage. So people, own your no's and think of it as self-care.
Yes. And don't let be present, make the decision and then move on, because ruminating about it or writing stories of, oh, this person is probably thinking this about me, or they're not going to invite me again. Just, you're keeping yourself stuck in that ruminating energy. And so it's just like, make your decision, move on. If new information is presented or, something new shows up, you can pivot or change your mind. Also, you can change your mind too. I think sometimes people think like there isn't room in our society for changed minds, changed opinions. Like, you can say no and then something could change, or you're given new information. You're like, actually, I can make that work, or I can do this. It's like,
can I just
be easy
jump
with
in
yourself.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of the greatest leaders of all time are people who have had the wisdom to change their mind, right? Who is it that said, consistency is a hobgoblin of small minds? Somebody famous. And listen, there is something to be said about consistency, right? You show up consistently for the people you love. So I'm not discrediting it entirely, but the idea of having the freaking courage and wisdom to change your mind as you change, as the information changes, as the circumstances changes. When I think about people that delight in their stubbornness, and it feels like politically there's a lot of that. It's like, wait, the emperor has no clothes. Can we just, and I'm not going to go down that path too far, but I do just want to, you've touched on something that is so important to me. I feel like having the courage to say, I've changed my mind. Sometimes you can say I was actually wrong, right? Because, geez, I was wrong. I see it differently now. That's a power move.
I love when people say that to me. I feel so, and saying it to someone else, it feels so like, wow, thank you.
Yeah, or I've changed my mind because the information has changed, or I've changed. That is agency. That is agency versus, I think we all know people that get real, like they've made the decision. I mean, a lot of parents do that. Nope, I'm dug in. My heels are dug in because I said so. And I feel bad for these kids that it's like, but wait, and I'm not here to dunk on parents at all. I promise I'm not. But, so whether you're a parent or, a boss or a friend, in any relationship, that intransigence, when it's worn like a badge of honor, it's like, it doesn't
There's no room for
growth or learning, right? I mean, it's like we're all being called to change. I mean, I feel like that's what you were saying before. Like we're all being called to change and heal in beautiful ways. And I feel like the more that I have the courage to heal and change and say I was wrong or I've changed my mind, I feel like back to the permission thing you were talking about before, I feel like it expressly gives other people permission to do the same. Because as social creatures, we are all, whether we're conscious or not, 95% of what is running the show is subconscious, but we're picking up on each other's vibes. We're seeing each other. So when we give each other permission to be bold and courageous, that permission is implicitly and sometimes explicitly given. And I love that.
I do too. I love it. I love when people let themselves be wrong and can admit when they've been wrong or say, oh, I didn't know that. Good to know. Thank you so much for telling me that. I had not heard that before. Or being flexible, with your, perspective and just being open to learn, I think is
and there's such a deficit important of that right now, right? I mean, I just feel like, and again, politically, and then it feels like, there's so much intransigence politically, and then everything else tends to be calcified. It's like that sort of calcification around political views, and then it goes into
everything.
Yeah, because so much of like everything ties back to the political, like that's the society we live on. Okay, I have one last burning question for you.
Well, I think just to say like health, parenting, diet, like people are so rigid, even meditation, so rigid. If you don't do it this way, you're not going to be enlightened. You're not going to reach true peace. And it's just like, can we break down some of this rigidity around all of these facets of life and just find what works for each of us? But yes, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I am 100% with you. That like, to me, the sort of what? I'm trying to think of a good metaphor here, but just like the sort of twin pillars of rigidity and judgment. And like, when you get really stuck in those things, it is hard to learn or grow or connect in ways that lead to a better version of you and more intimate connections with other people, because it's like, oh, I can let you in a little bit more if I'm willing to be a little less rigid, if I'm willing to be a little less judgmental. And, you and your mom talk about the loneliness epidemic, which is a big pet topic of mine too. And it's like, well, no wonder we're feeling lonely, because there is so much rigidity, so much judgment. And it's like, all right, well, I can be self-righteous here by myself. Guess who's not winning? Me, if I'm self-righteous here by myself.
Yeah, we've built up so many
that's a
walls.
formula for, losing.
Exactly. So many walls around ourselves of, if you're this way, or this way, and just, lots of different ways to keep people out. And I think with social media and the internet, you can connect with people there, but I think there is huge value in connecting with people in person, in community. And it's like, we've lost a lot of that for lots of different reasons. But I think the rigidity that you were talking about in our beliefs is really what's keeping us isolated. And
so I just say, Gandhi's message of be the change you want to see in the world is really the power move, right? And it's like, all right, I'm going to quit judging all y'all, and I'm just going to do it. Right. But it is amazing to me. The older I get, the more, Neville Goddard talks about this, if you're familiar with him at all, just how we are all literally mirrors. Like everybody that we experience in our lives are us pushed out. And I have started taking that so literally, and that has been a game changer for me. I'm not going to lie.
I love that. I think it's true. I think my mom has told me this in her study. I think it's in the Buddhist philosophy that like at some point we all will live each other's existence. Like we all are everyone in a different life. And so like we'll all experience the good and bad of like everybody. And it's just like, that also kind of is very humanizing, where it kind of takes us to all in the same.
Yeah, it takes out the judgment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just back to this deep wisdom of being compassionate. And that's a practice, right? Especially if we weren't raised that way and didn't grow up that way, and if for a lot of people who were raised with a lot of rigidity, judgment, criticism, and that's that. So I'm going to ask you one last question. And so perfect setup. And this is one of the things I love you guys to talk about. What would shift if you treated your inner critic like a friend instead of an enemy? And how can you do that? Maybe it's both, kind of what would happen and how do you do it?
I think what would happen is I would probably be more courageous in pursuing desires and wishes that my inner critic has told me I'm not good enough, or I'm not seasoned enough, or not whatever enough. The self-doubt that holds you back. And for me, when I think about my inner critic and what I tell myself, it's not always that I think of it as an enemy. It's like I believe it so much that I kind of get blinders to where I'm like, oh, that's what's true. And for me, what's been super helpful with this is trying to nip it in the bud as quickly as I can. But sometimes that doesn't happen. I've caught myself in spirals even as of late, but trying to nip it into the bud and say like, that's just not true. This is what's true. And like kind of like counteracting whatever criticisms I'm thinking about myself with, this is what's true, or no, let's think about it this way, or some sort of talking back to the inner critic rather than just like A, believing it, or B, being judgmental that it's there, which also happens. It's more of like being in conversation, like, well, wait, that's not true. And let's talk about it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that to me, the business of befriending the inner critic and being curious about it, that feels like such a powerful way to neutralize its hold, right? And being curious, to me, like curiosity is such a superpower. Like, what's up with this? You know what I mean? And you said a really good
where did
thing,
this come from? Like, oh, interesting. That hasn't popped up in a while. Like, what's this about?
right? So, because I feel like it's almost like unraveling, a sweater. It's like you start to pull it, and it's like, ooh, if you can just see where that unraveling takes you, then it often feels like that inner critic is trying to either protect you from disappointment or from getting hurt or making a mistake. Like for me, for so many of us, oh God, failure was like the worst, right? And I was saying to somebody I was interviewing yesterday, for a long time, I ran my publishing business. It was, I'm playing not to lose. And that was safe, right? And now I've pivoted into, I am playing to win, right? And not win in a, like I want to dominate anybody, but it's like, I am here to play the game in a way that is fun, that's super successful, that I love, with people that I love. And that energy, whereas before, having, plenty, like a whole chorus of inner critics, just telling me like, don't fail, like don't aim too high, because if you aim too high and you don't get it, then that's failure, right? So it's like, just aim just high enough so you don't F it up. Right now it's like, okay, shush your little booties, we're good. And now to be in this, we were talking about that at the beginning, fun, joyful, being much more relaxed. I show up to my work so much more peaceful, and rather than chaotic, as which was much more common for me in the past. And it's amazing.
Trusting.
Yeah, and trusting. Oh, you nailed it. How those traits have impacted literally all my relationships, including with my kids, my personal life, and then my professional success.
Absolutely. I think you said it so amazingly, where it's like playing not to lose versus playing to win. It's like that's just semantics, but also there's so much energy behind that shift of the anxiety of like, oh my gosh, I can't lose, to no, I'm trusting that I'm going to win because this is fun for me and this is my life and I'm excited about it. Like you can just
it embeds
the difference.
Yes, totally. And it embeds the activity, the action or the non-action, right? Like I'm not driving forward like I was before. Like there's just so much more of like, oh, okay, I'm going to allow this. And, there's much more of a surrender in my approach, which, is very different for me as somebody who is had been very much of an alpha female.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. All right, Michelle, I could talk to you for days.
Me
Thank
too.
you so much for being on Getting Open.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations for your beautiful new book. Hang it up, hold it up one more time.
Thank you so much again.
This is coming out November 4th. Real quick, how do people find it?
Yes.
We want to get as many pre-orders as possible.
Yes, thank you so much. I've learned that pre-orders are super important for any author, but first-time authors as well. You can pre-order it wherever books are sold. Amazon, you can go to indie bookstores, Barnes & Noble, anywhere. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so
it's
grateful.
A daily companion, right? So You're getting a little bit of love and wisdom. And you talk about how there are a couple things that I want to treat here. Whether you're facing heartache, burnout, or simply seeking purpose. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us, we talked about like the grind and so forth. There's so much burnout. And it's like, and that's a choice, guys. It's a choice. If you're feeling burned out, like I'm just feeling burned out, you are making that choice.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to live like this.
And and I used to be in that mode. And so I say with a lot of compassion, no judgment here, but that to me, to have your daily companion of wisdom and compassion and the ideas that you have with morning pages and journaling and so forth, they're all just ways to live more joyfully. So congratulations on your beautiful new book.
So
I can't
much.
wait to get.
And thank you
I need
for
a
having
signed
me.
copy.
Yes, I'm going to send you one when I get the books.
All right,
they sent me one, and when I get more, I will send one to you.
All right, good. I want to be on the list, and I'm going to buy one too. I'm as an author myself. We got to buy each other's books.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to Getting Open. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Whew. I hope you guys got as much out of that session as I did. So many great takeaways. And you guys know how passionate I am about this. This is a show I hope to entertain you. I definitely do. But even more important than entertaining you, I really want you to take those actionable takeaways to heart. And so if there's just one thing that was said in this interview that you will apply to your life, honestly, I hope you do it. I've got at least 4 or 5 that I am committed to applying into my own life. As always, if you are not following this show on social media, wherever you get your podcasts and so forth, please find us Getting Open on Instagram and TikTok, on YouTube. Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It would mean a lot to me. I don't want you to miss any of these amazing episodes we're bringing to you or any of the fun clips. Thanks for all your comments and letters and all the ways that you communicate back to me and my team. It means so much. And with that, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.